meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Tonight's message. Amen. Shalom Yashvel, Teda Yashvel, Kwam Yashvel, Barakalat Sham Yachava, Anai Kofi, Kohelet of Servant of Christ, Mashalom Che, Ache, Achiyat. Hello, everybody. I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor of Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And I am very appreciative to have another opportunity to come in front of you all again. Hopefully, you all are doing well. Come on in. Come on in. We're going to get right into it even before everybody comes in. I'm going to just go right in. Once again, we give all honor and praise to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A and D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree, to SOC, to the members, to the family, to the diaspora, to Yashalaal, to those who are grafted in, those who are great human beings. We appreciate you. Blessings as you come on in. Tonight, I would like to speak specifically on greatness. And really what we're talking about is greatness comes, greatness from a horrible mentality. Right? Greatness from a horrible mentality. And how you doing, Sister Monica, Sister Nadine, Katanya on here, everybody, Ms. Reed, everybody who's coming on. Okay. How you doing, Brad? Romac, everybody. Minister Tamara, hello, shalom, peace. So greatness from a horrible mentality. What do I mean by that, by the way? All right, because we got to figure it out. Greatness from a horrible mentality. Many people want to talk about what is great or what is greatness, and a lot of people do not want to be honest about the fact that what we think of as greatness comes from a horrible place. If we could just keep it a buck, right? How you doing? Since we're talking about it, we just be honest. If we keep it a buck, what we consider to be great comes from a horrible place, comes from a horrible mindset. Right. Kobe Bryant was great because he got a bunch of rings. Kobe Bryant was dedicated. Kobe Bryant is also somebody that didn't talk to certain teammates at all for years and years and years. Right. Michael Jordan is somebody who's great because he won championships. Michael Jordan is somebody, though, that we ignore what he's doing with money off of his own community, money off of prisons. His speaking ill of people and trying to even lie on people and literally shutting people out of getting some of the best experience they could have because he didn't like them. But then he says it's all about competition, right? Greatness is, to a lot of people, become the president. You're so great that you became the president, as if these presidents are great. We have a horrible mentality. How you doing, Minister Tamar? We have a horrible mentality when it comes to a lot of different things. Terribly horrible, horrific in many different ways, right? Somebody's great because they make a bunch of money, so they get a chance to speak on things that they shouldn't speak on. Right, Bill Gates, listen to him because he's made a bunch of money. What does it mean that he's great? Oprah Winfrey, she gave away a bunch of gifts. And by the way, I'm not here to clown anybody or say anybody deserves heaven or hell. I don't do that. I don't have the heaven and hell to put anybody in. But let's just keep it a buck, right? When we talk about greatness, we're not talking about reality. We're talking about greatness from our point of view. When did I have my bat? Or my bat mitzvah, or what people call a bat mitzvah. I wouldn't have a bat mitzvah. I'm a male. I'm a son of the Most High. So when I became a man, I would have had my bar mitzvah, or bar mitzvah, and that would be at age 16, right? How you doing, Brother Jermaine? And you're not supposed to just have it because you turned 16. You're supposed to make sure. So I don't know if that was, if that was genuine or not or whatever, but yeah. But once again, greatness comes from a horrible mentality. How you doing, Brother Henry? How you doing, Sister Deborah? Greatness comes from a horrible mentality. We have a lot of mentalities, a lot of thought process, a lot of ideologies, a lot of idiosyncrasies that are not necessarily correct in any way, shape, or form. right? In our culture, what does it mean to be a great husband? Because people keep looking for great husbands and are looking for things that might not be anything that's there, right? Like, for example, how many people want great wives and they're looking for something that doesn't exist as far as perfection, never making a mistake, somebody who bows down to your will and never listen and will listen to anything you say, jump how high, even if you're messing up. How many people look for great husbands and they're looking for, that means your credit score has got to be perfect. You're making all the money in the world. You know, you got to make 200,000, 300,000 a year. You got to be in your word. You got to be this, that, or whatever. And it's like, you know, there's very few of those brothers, but greatness comes from, you know, horrible logic. Unfortunately, it comes from a horrible mentality. Um, Hello, how you doing, Todd? All right, thank you for that. Hope the same as hope you're doing well as well, my friend. Um, and as I look at a lot of different things when it comes to greatness, it's hard to deal with a society, with a group, with a diaspora, with human beings who have decided to use use things such as how many views you get to determine greatness. And if I didn't say hello to Brother Jermaine, how you doing? Right? We live in a society where greatness is skewed. It's graded on a horrible curve. Greatness on the curve is a bad spot. Maybe we should have called it that, greatness on the curve. Matter of fact, let's switch it up. Holy Spirit speaking, right? Because I didn't really know what to call this, but I can see it now. Let's call this greatness on a curve, right? Because that's really what we're dealing with. Is we know that's not really what it's supposed to be, but hey, it's the best that's out there. It's the best. It's the average, or you know, everybody, like, we have a mindset that average means a C or a C plus. But when you grade something on the curve, average just means that whatever everybody got is an average, right? And we try to make that the new thing to grade on, the new grading scale, right? So if everybody didn't study for the test, if everybody has not been trained on what a husband or wife is, if everybody doesn't know what the word of Yah is, if everybody doesn't know what it is to be, you know, people come on here all the time. What is your culture? And I say, well, Yashta, Shwi, Vashanti, Timbuktu, Mali, original Ghana, and modern Ghana, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Kemet, Kush, Nubia, right? If I start going to those things, somebody says, well, what is your culture? And then I start saying that, I can say Omekshi, I could say Taino, I could say Jamaica, not just the country, what we think of the country today, but Jamaicans as far as the actual natives called Jamaicans. That's stretched out more than just in what was in Jamaica. What about Negro, the original Negro term, not Negro as far as what you think that's in the dictionary today that people want to argue because it comes from somebody else's perspective, right? But everybody will tell you something and they'll be like, well, where do you come from? And I could talk about these things, but it's difficult when you don't know what it is that I speak. So what people want you to do is to curve it. You know, come on, ministerial staff, help me out with this. And how you doing, Minister Shante? Come on, ministerial staff. What does your charge tell you? It tells you stop grading on the curve. It says, when you preach the word, be instant. That means when you speak it from a lifted up point of view, will it be instant in season and out of season? Exactly, right? Will it be from a higher place no matter if everybody's doing well on the test, or if nobody's doing well on the test? Will you still get an A plus? And our greatness is on a curve. Our greatness is graded on a curve. Many people refuse to do what it takes to be great, yet they want you to curve, right, what it is that you do, to literally curb your enthusiasm. Yeah, grading on the curve, and so's the one that studied. You mean I studied and studied? You mean everybody was making fun of me? They didn't want to be the teacher's pet. They didn't want to put in those hours. They didn't want to, like, do what it took. They didn't dedicate their life to this. And now all of a sudden here I am. I get this 100%, and the next highest grade is a 58. And I'm supposed to go ahead and just say, well, I got an A plus, but everybody who got a 58 got a A. What is that? Like, you're not going to at least give me like twice the credit. If you're going to take it down to 58, you should dang near give me twice the credit. If I came in there and this is going to pass me or fail me, I should be valedictorian off of this grade scale. According to you, you should give me 185%, right? But when greatness is put on the curve, it's messed up. Now I have to admit, from study that's happened, and somebody submitted this to me to make sure that I had this correct. And so I praise y'all for doing so. I don't mind being corrected. Like, even Harvard, apparently, and other schools have started to come down to the curve. And apparently they've gone ahead and started becoming accredited. Right. A lot of bad things start happening when everybody starts coming down to the curve. Why do the unlearned, or the people who don't study? I'm not even calling out the ignorant. I'm talking about the one who will not study. Why am I supposed to come down to the curve? How you doing, Mr. 252? Right? You have to ask yourself, why is it that everybody wants me to live my life on the curve rather than live my life as one who studied? Why is it that everybody wants me? This is something that's never made sense to me. When they say keep it simple, stupid, or they say keep it simple, saints. Why would I want the saints to remain simple? Do you know what a simple mind is? How you doing? I don't know if it's noon or noonday or no one. Not sure, but thanks for being on. Do you not know what it is to be simple-minded? Why would I want to teach and keep people with a simple mind? Why would we simplify your mindset when your mind is supposed to be something that reaches eternally? Your mindset is supposed to be something that causes people to never look at things the same again. But they say, keep it simple. Keep these people in a simple state. Greatness is on a curve and it's dangerous. How you doing, Sister Nadine? It's dangerous. It becomes dangerous. We're grading the greatness of people. Do you know people are grading your greatness on the curve? And what's happening is you're starting to say, like, when you allow people to do this long enough, because this is what we've been taught, what happens? You start to say, maybe I'm tripping, right? Yeah, we have a complex mind, right? Like, but you start to say to yourself, maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I am thinking a little too much. Maybe I'm hyper analytical. Maybe I'm zealous in learning. But why is zealous learning wrong? Maybe I'm overthinking this. It doesn't take all that, does it? Why doesn't it take all that? I'm just at a place to where living my life on the curve is something that I'm not really worried about partaking in. And so really then we have to start asking to ourselves too, why are we listening to the people that grade the test? And that's when we have to start figuring out, see, why am I listening to the Twitter voices? Why am I listening to social media as if social media gets to determine? Now I can listen to social media, but I don't allow social media to be the barometer of anything. Right? I'm not going to allow the person that can't take care of one girlfriend to start teaching me about having multiple wives, right? I'm great at having one wife and being the husband of one wife, and I'm become greater at it every day, right? And if you can't meet that criteria because you're not willing to do everything it takes to make one person the best version of themselves you could be, and two become one, I'm not willing to be curved down at that. See, grading on the curve is serious. How you doing, Sister Tori? Grading on the curve. Many people want you to grade your life. They're grading your life on the curve. How come you think How come you think that you got all that? How come you got that knowledge? Remember, Yehoshua, he wanted to come to his own people, his own countrymen where he grew up, and he gave the same word that he gave to everybody else. And their response wasn't, you didn't deserve an A plus plus for what you just preached. Their response was, how did he get that knowledge? They tried to curve him down. We grew up with him, and we know his mama, and we know his daddy, and we know his profession, and we know his brothers and sisters. How in the world does he get to go ahead and have this? We're not going to accept it, not because he's wrong, but because we brought it down the curve. We have to start asking ourselves, are we comfortable? Are we still comfortable with allowing ourselves to be graded on the curve? You see what I'm saying? And why does it have to be easier for it to be righteous? Amen. Right? Why do we keep accepting what everybody else says rather than saying, is this foundational? If what I'm living is foundational and it's cultural and it's correct by our standard, then I don't need anybody else's curve. I want to ask you a question. Nobody studies this stuff, and I'm not saying that these people are not ever successful, but how many people, right, who are corporation owners, how many people who are teaching you what they're teaching, how many social media influencers that you know of do you know for being valedictorians? I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but just roll with me. How many people do you listen to and you say, I listen to them, man, they're a valedictorian? How many times does that pop into your mind? Yeah, I'm not comfortable with it either, Minister Nice. I want you to think about that, right? When's the last time that you talked to somebody and you guys had a conversation and you said, man, I need to listen to you because you got all A's? I'm not saying all A's is something to frown upon. What I'm saying is that even that can be a curve if you're not careful. It's curved. How you doing, Shabbos? Right? If you're not careful, you're grading, you're looking for something on curves. I'm blessed to be in a position where I talk to people that make a whole lot of money. And one of the things that I'm very careful of is trying to make sure that even when they offer to do a lot of stuff for me and my family, unless I'm led, we only had a conversation, and really I don't have a they'll oftentimes offer things, and I say, well, let me think about it, let me pray about it, and then maybe we partake. But the reason is because I don't curve the relationship. I love you not because you make more money. I love you because it is. I love you because it is. I love you because you have confidant energy. I love you because you want to help my family out. But I don't I love you because you allow me to sow into you and you sow back into me, right? But we're not having conversations because of how much money you make. Right? Common sense is different than book sense. Also, for real, we're royalty. We're not supposed to have common sense. Common sense, let that be for the commoners. Amen. Your love is pure. And how you doing, Margaret? Greetings to you. How you doing, R. Great? Right? So we have a lot of people who grade their lives on the curve, right? Rather than just being who they are. And we're used to being graded on the curve. We're used to changing who we are so that we can make sure that we fit in. And if we don't, we're used to society already saying it. This is why we need to build up society and be reaching out to each other and trying to support one another and trying to get as much stuff as we can to help each other's business as much as possible because we're used to what? Grading on the curve, right? And thank you for the love. Appreciate it. We're so used to grading everything on the curve. Look, I have tassels, I have fringes. That's great. But if somebody doesn't have tassels or fringes, does it mean they can't get into the kingdom of heaven? Be careful of the curves that you judge people by. I'm not saying it's not lawful. Hear what I'm saying? Be careful of the curves that you grade people by. No wonder some people can't come into this knowledge. No wonder some people can't be intimate with the Most High. No wonder we keep taking the chaff out of our brother or sister's eye, but we have a 2x4, right? We got this beam that's ready to support a house in ours, right? And it's miraculously, we've allowed it to miraculously grow from the twig, from the chaff to a straw, to a whole twig, and somehow, some way, it's been rooted and grounded in you now to where it's taking over your brain capacity, and you don't even think about the fact that it needs to go somewhere, and it's messing you up. You know what I find interesting? I never even thought about it to this moment. The Holy Spirit is bringing it up, and I find it very interesting as you downloading this. Do you not realize that that scripture comes after what we talked about with the marriage scripture, Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 through 32? Matthew chapter 5, 27 through 32 talks about how you got to be careful of what people call adultery, because adultery could be something that's in your heart. And if you commit it with your heart or in your mind, your thought process, then you've already committed it, right? So then Yehoshua says, if something, he says, well, it's better that you pluck your eye out than it is to go ahead and end up committing adultery in the mind. But here's the interesting thing I never received until just this moment. in Matthew chapter 7. Okay, I'm sorry. Hold on one second. Oh, gosh. So one of the things that I find interesting, if we look at it correctly, right? Matthew chapter 5, verse 27 through 32, we'll find out about having that. Excuse me. Excuse me. I still have issues with my leg. We'll find out that. Sorry. We'll find out that it says that you should be careful about taking your eye. But then in Matthew chapter 7, Yahushua starts saying, well, and also be careful that you have this beam in your eye. You're worried about the chaff in somebody else's eye, but you have a beam in your eye. If there's a beam in your eye is useless anyways. So if you kind of see what Yahushua is doing there, he's spitting bars, right? He's basically saying, hey, if you got a problem with looking at stuff or whatever, eventually that thing, but you so busy talking about adultery with the other person, right? That person's committed adultery, that person committed adultery, but you committed adultery in your own heart and you don't deal with it. You got those pornographic issues and images going on, which is actually the definition of fornication, right? A false image of marriage. And so you'll have people that'll be sitting up there and not realize, right? He's literally saying you'll talk bad about the person because you say they committed adultery. But he says, if you even see a person and you think about it, you committed adultery. Then he says, though, in Matthew 7 later on, he says, you keep talking about the chaff in their eye, but you got a beam you won't deal with in yours. See, this is why we're talking about tonight, greatness on a curve. People are curving it. Many people want to tell you what greatness is, but they keep trying to curve the grade. But I'm not trying to get the grade that everybody else has. What Yah says is great is not what everybody else says is great. You see that? What Yah says is outstanding is not what everybody else says is outstanding. Right? It's outstanding in the world, right? Like, hear what I'm saying? This whole vibe, like you gotta be careful. Y'all hear me? We go back and forth at each other with stuff that has nothing to do with our people. We just listen to what other people say, and we become great at regurgitating, repeating, and parroting. Right? Not even aware that sometimes we come off more like a parody than what's actual reality. So we say stuff like, you know what, all y'all, you just controlling and you just this and you just that. I mean, controlling according to whose standards? What makes your wife controlling? What makes your husband controlling? Are we just parroting stuff? Well, you don't comprehend because they did blah, blah, boom, boom, boom. Okay, fine, time out. What's the love language? Before we go into all this other stuff, what's the love language? Are you comparing them to the dude who had the club mindset? Are you comparing them to the woman who had the club mindset? Like, what is the act? Why are we grading on the curve? Why are we saying we got to bring you in so that you seem like and sound like everybody else? Right? How many times does that happen? Think about that. Our greatness is on a curve. So what we consider to be great is not according to the word of Yah anymore. Now it's according to, you know what, when I was growing up, this is what we said was great. But what if you grew up in a messed up situation? Right? I see you, Sister Nadine. Yeah, people are frustrated when you're doing well because it's a curve. Why aren't you doing right? Even with people's expectation of you, we have decided that we would grade you already as somebody that would only meet this criteria, would only meet this standard, would only be able to go this far in life, would only be able to make this much money, would only be able to reach this many people, would only be able to carry this much, would only be able to survive. And then wait a minute, you're doing greater than that. No, come back down. This is how people treat you. No. Oh, and I'm the first person in my family to graduate from this, that, whatever. No. Come back down. Right? You think you're so educated. Right? I'm the first person in my family to be able to make sure that we have some kind of financial security. Oh, you think that blah, blah, whatever. Just get over yourself. Because it's a curve. And we live by these curves. We even curve people. Right? If I were to say you curved somebody, right? We those who know that slang, right? What does that even mean? You tell me. If I say you curve somebody, what does that mean? How you doing, Minister Moselle? Hopefully this minute see Moselle. I just see Moselle pop up. I'm assuming it did. If I said you curve somebody, if you say, man, why you curve me like that? What you trying to say? And thank you for the love, appreciate it. How you doing? Country girl, right? 1328. Right. Yeah, you deaded them. You ignored them. You made them look bad in front of somebody, possibly. You didn't respect where they were, right? But we do it all the time to each other. We want greatness on a curve. It's not greatness unless you agree with every single word that I feel you should articulate based off of my knowledge of it. Even if we agree to disagree, why can't we have conversation? Why do we have to curve it? So you got to start asking yourself, what is greatness on the curve? Somebody dissed you, right? But why is it see, watch this. If I say to you, and this is why I try to be very careful with my words, for I know that words hurt and stuff. But I've learned that there are moments, especially on the live sessions, where no matter how much I try to explain something, somebody's going to automatically try to think that I'm curving them, because what they've done is, in their mind, it is a curve. In their mindset, it must be, I'm trying to be little. And I'm like, no, like I'm trying to give you something you might not know. You know what I'm saying? Like, what if I'm legit interested in helping you to see something in a way that you've never seen before? But if your mindset is already that I must be like and see, watch this. I get it, because your shadow, the shadow of death, right, so to speak, when people did that before, it cast a certain shadow that made you believe, right, that now every time you see any shadow that looks familiar to that, you say that I must be trying to do the same thing. People made fun of your weight. So if I mention something about weight, you think in your mind he's trying to say that I'm heavy, right? If you had an issue with with women, you must be saying that now I'm trying to say you a simp, right? And now you want to be this pimp figure instead of a simp figure, when neither one should apply to you, right? I could be talking about I talk about church. Somebody says, "Oh, so that means that he hates all people in churches." No, that's not true at all. I'm speaking on specific experiences, and also things that we can literally like show you, as far as give you receipts. How you doing, Sister Kimberly? Right? It does not mean that I'm trying to curve you, right? And you shouldn't curve me. You shouldn't think I'm trying to disrespect you because I'm trying to give you something that might be foreign. How you doing, Spike Me? Yeah, people think we're taking a shot at them. But once again, that's why we got to realize. See, people are coming from greatness from a place from a horrible place. They're coming from greatness curved. If greatness is curved, watch this. I don't care what anybody tells you. If everybody gets a 58, if the highest score on the test is 58, nobody did great on the test. I don't care how you curve it. Thank you, Brother Henry. I appreciate you. Right? If everybody gets a 58 on the test, I don't care what the teacher says and how they curve it. The reality of the matter. I don't care if they say a 58 now equals an A. A 58 is not 100%. This is what we were talking about earlier today. One of the dangers about an evolutionary mind is that what? Not a revolutionary, an evolutionary mind, is that what has happened is now truth has evolved. And how you doing? My wife is on once again. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A and D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Right? So what happens when truth continues to evolve? Well, then what's true? I can't be upset because remember, evolve is talking about the mindset, how one thinks. So evolution really is when somebody says that I become something based off of the way that my species thinks. Well, we forced ourselves into this new thing. We, in sense, created. In a sense, we've created ourselves. And so now, well, if that's the case, then why don't you create truth? Truth can be whatever you want to be, can it? That's why live your best life, sis. Well, I guess, but isn't there a life? But live your best life. And I get it, fine. If it's her life and she needs to live it, let her live it. But really what y'all mean is do whatever you want to do. And we co-sign it. I don't co-sign it. What if your best life is not the best life for you? I'm not about to curve the truth. Could it be possible that you're not a wife yet? And that might be one of the issues? Could it be possible that you keep looking for men and not husbands? Could it be possible you keep trying to date when in your Bible doesn't say nothing about dating? At some point, we got to have an honest conversation. Now, I'm going to be nice to you about it, as nice as I can. But sometimes I'm going to have to come have a conversation with you. Say, look, right? I appreciate you. I appreciate you, sis. I appreciate what you do for the community. Bruh, you're doing excellent things. However, I got to tell you the truth. If you don't change that right there, you're going to have the same problem that you keep having. And a lot of times, sometimes I can't even go into that because I talk to people and they'll start telling me stuff, and you can hear real quick, oh, they're not going to change. Like they've decided this is all there is to it, and that's it. How you doing, Darius? Right? So legit, like they've already, because you can hear it in their description of things. Well, I've done this and I did everything I can, and you know what? Like I know that I was right, and I know, and can't nobody tell me, and I'm the person, and this and that, and so I'm glad I'm talking to you, Kofi, because I wait for somebody who agrees with every single thing that I say, and I'm listening to them. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? I'm listening to them like, you don't want me to like actually give advice. No problem. You might just be calling to have me listen to you. No problem. I'll listen to you. But you're not really trying to actually have conversation. You're not worried about should we go into anything. You're basically saying, Kofi, I just want you to curve everything for me. And that's when I just get quiet because either I'm going to tell you it's 100 or I'm going to tell you why it's a 58. And I'm not going to tell you the 58 is an 8. Now I'll tell you if the 58 is the best that you could do with the knowledge that you were given or the knowledge that you have and the education that somebody might have given you. And even if you might be ignorant of some things, just like I'm ignorant of some things, right? So if you get the 58, hey, if that's the greatest you can do, let's go ahead and celebrate the 58. However, let's not act like you reached 100. This is why Paul, in all his greatness, this is why we got to stop curving greatness, right? And all Paul's greatness and all his gifts, he said, I still haven't arrived. He said, don't. He said, look, I can do all this stuff, but I have not yet arrived. Don't think that I'm out here telling you I got 100% on the test. I have not got 100% on the test. He tells you straight up. This is why I identify with Paul. As much as people try to trash him, I love me some Paul, right? Whichever how you want to pronounce the name. I love me some Apostle Paul because Paul will say some stuff that's real. Paul will say some stuff like, look, the things that I don't want to do are the things I end up doing. And the things that I, do want to do are the things that I don't end up doing. Right? Like Paul said, look, as much as I am, he said, follow me as I follow Christ. But let me give you some extra on that. He said, follow me as I follow Christ. But that's important because there's some things that I do want to do that I'm not doing do. And there's some things that I'm not supposed to do, and I'm gonna end up doing it. And you better make sure that I'm not your barometer of anything. I'm not the mercury that you need to look at on the thermometer, right? Right. If I'm a thermometer, you better make sure you're paying attention to the mercury. Don't just have a thermometer, right? In other words, and I know this is old school. Now we don't have this anymore, right? And praise y'all for it because they're dangerous. But don't have me on your wall and be looking at me, but not looking for the mercury. The mercury inside the thermometer is what's going to tell you what the temperature is, not me. Don't fix your house up and get an AC unit and get that nice unit on it. It looks all pretty and everything. And then you look on there and you say, man, you know what? That's a nice thermometer, right? That's a nice system that's been installed throughout the house, but you never look at the actual numbers on the system, right? You could be curving. A lot of people look at the thermometer, never look at the mercury. Don't look at this vessel. This isn't anything special. This could come, this could go. This will get gray hair. Gray hairs might go away from time. This might gain some weight. This might lose some weight. This might have some issues physically. It might be in complete health. But look for something that you can see that's deeper than this. Amen. Come on, you hear what I'm saying? Like, and once again, people grade on the curve. They don't even look at the whole thing. Telling me about the United States, the problem with the United States. You don't even know the United States isn't even a country. Because you grade on the curve. You let people grade you on the curve. You let people, watch this. Why are you having, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have conversation, but hear what I'm saying. Why are you having extremely extensive conversation? I'm one to talk because I talk a lot, but I promise you, in my regular life, why are we having extensive conversations with people on things that they are not ready for? If they're ready to be taught, let's teach. But why am I having an extensive conversation, or why am I having an argument even? Which is okay if you have rules, right? Debate is actually all right if you have rules. Debates are supposed to have rules. People don't have guidelines. That's why debates end up bad, right? But debates in and of themselves are not terrible. or not terribly bad or terribly wrong, right? But we have to come to a place of realizing that debate, right, is not something that we do. We just argue, and then we arguing just for the sake of winning. And then we're so busy trying to win against somebody that might not have a clue as to what they're talking about. You said you had the benefit of living in other countries growing up. Okay, that's great. Yeah, we've had that experience too. Yeah, so that's awesome, right? But no matter where you go, what I'm saying is that you need to know context and facts and have them go together, right? Like if I go to Ireland, don't go to Ireland talking about Londonderry. Go to Ireland talking about free dairy. And if you go to Northern Ireland, don't go there talking about, unfortunately, don't go there talking about free dairy. You better call it Londonderry. There's context. How you doing, Sister Knight? Sometimes we do that because we, do think that we can fix everybody. That's not the reality, right? But we do. All right. But and that could be something in us, but a lot of times we just think, I gotta be right. 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 And be righteous. Righteousness is not your righteousness you're searching for, anyways. Your righteousness, your winning the argument is a filthy rag. And what's happened is a lot of people keep displaying filthy rags and then say, y'all don't like this. This is what's happened with our diaspora. We've curved Yah's love. By this will men know, Yahshua's love specifically, by this will men know that you are my disciples, by the way you love one another. Don't love one another, right? According to your love standard, love one another the way that I have loved you. Right? But we curved it. We said, if you don't wear tassels like I wear tassels, if you don't wear purple like I wear purple, if you don't cover your head like I say cover your head, if you don't have locks the way I say have locks, if you don't shave your head the way I say shave your head, if your beard is not as full as mine, you've curved the grade. You're not the barometer. You're not the barometer. You hear what I'm saying? If by this will men know that you are my disciples, what is a disciple? One who is disciplined by a specific master. Let's go ahead and throw that working definition out there. Thank you, Holy Spirit. How can you give, what's a great working definition of a disciple? One who is disciplined by a specific master, because everybody has a master. Everybody has a teacher. That's what a master is. So you keep talking about master. Master ain't teaching you nothing. He's a bad example. When I say master, when I say master bedroom, when I say a master of their craft, right? When I say a master of their craft, what am I talking about? I'm talking about a teacher, and many people are not disciplined. This is why if I bring you many people something that comes out of what they claim to be their canon, they'll get mad at me. How you gonna get mad at me? And that's what you say you believe in, though. And then if I show you the original, people get even worse. You said master of craft or witchcraft? I don't know. If that's somebody else's culture and they use it, that's fine. For us, a master, a teacher is a master. You should be a master of something, right? If that's what people are trying to do. But witchcraft, witch is somebody that's trying to control. Craft for them is they're making things to try and control you. And they should be put to death, whether physically or spiritually. We can have an argument later on. Right, but we're having a different mindset. Right? See, watch this. Don't get curved. Even with the whole color thing, right? My wife is correct in what she's saying, right? And no shade at you, LJH, but watch this. Don't curve it. Do you think that Yah loves everything about his creation? I'm not coming at you. I just wanted us to think, right? Does Yah love everything about his creation, or did he create things that he feels do not matter? Right? Hold on. Like before we go into the places where we're ready to have apologetics and have debate and have argument and we're getting our cases ready and we're going into case study and we're going to go into the annals of our mind and make sure we use our mental master present. Before we go there, right? Does Yah create anything that he doesn't think matters? See, this is what right? Right? He knows it says he knows every hair on your head. They are numbered, not counted. If you lose a hair, he knows that's hair 1,755. Everything matters, right? So Yah doesn't create anything. Do you think a perfect creator has created anything that he doesn't think matters? See, we're not going to curve it. Let's keep it the grade where it is. This is an 8. We're not going to make it a 58 and leave some of it out, right? Not saying that's what you're doing specifically. Hear what I'm saying? Let's just think about it. Right? This is when I say greatness has become curved. We should not curve it. Is there anything that did Yah make a seed and think that any part of the seed did not matter? See, that might be what we've been taught or what we think. But Yah looks under the ground while we look above it. Everything that Yah made matters. The dark hair matters. The black hair matters. The brown hair matters. The brunette hair matters. The red hair matters. The albino's hair matters. He loves it all. It's all part of you. Right? You said, yes, example, Jacob, he loved and Esau, he hated. Right? Well, Esau, he hated as far as what? As far, see, once again, when we say Esau, we make the mindset that Esau was evil, the person, not realizing that he's talking about also Esau is coming out of everything you see and coming down the line out of an Esau spirit, right? Now, what is the stuff that he hates about Esau, right? Which, by the way, is still not his will that any would perish, but that all would have everlasting life. And if anybody with the Esau spirit gets their spirit in order, then he still will love on them. He still allows the rain to rain on the just and the unjust, right? But with the Esau spirit, we're talking about stuff like he's not acting right. He gives up his birthright. He is not in position very often, right? He's great at hunting. He's great at doing certain things, right? The Bible declares and tells us those things, but there's some things that are amiss. So even remember that word hate is not exactly what we think. The word hate is really dealing with something that we detest, we break down, what people try to test with us on. And when we realize that it's not worthy of being tested anymore, we ignore it. That's what hate actually is. Right? And I'm talking to somebody else who's not even on here, LJH. I don't know if you think that I'm coming at you, right? Right? You see what I'm saying? So it's not Yah's will that any would perish, but all would have everlasting life. We make the mistake of saying, well, Yah doesn't care about color. Then why would he make color? Forget human beings for a second. I mean, it's hard to do that because we are human, but let's just throw us to the side. Let's throw us, like many people do anyways. Let's just toss us to the side for a second. Let's have an actual conversation about nature. Why does Yah think that there needs to be color in grass if it doesn't matter? Why does he think that it'd be nice if you thought that the sky came in colors? Why does he think that it would be acceptable for you to look at some things that are clear? You call it the color white, or at least it used to be called the color white. Why is it that enough color put together, it gets a certain blackness or darkness to be able to indicate how much color might be in something? Right? These are things that we have to ask ourselves, right? Not just color. Does it matter? See, watch this. If we're not careful, we curb this stuff, right? So now we say stuff like, well, color doesn't matter. Well, Yah made it, so it must matter. But then we'll say stuff like, well, it doesn't matter if you're male or female. Why doesn't it matter? And some people, they rest on that now. Now that becomes a whole nother conversation. Some people say, it doesn't matter about when it is that the baby's taken care of. We need to start making sure we take care of these babies when they're born. What about in the womb? What about before the womb? Because Yah says, I knew the child before the mother and father knew each other. And how you doing, Jimmy? Thanks for being on. right? If he created it, even death matters, which is why his son was sent. He created death that if we ever sinned, we wouldn't live in a sinful state forever. He separates us from the tree of life when we sin. And now death that was created but never had any power now has a specific purpose in our lives. He created it to separate us from the sinful state of ourselves. It matters. It most certainly matters. It most certainly does. Once again, did I say anything before? Oh, that's why they were saying it. Did I say something to make you think otherwise before I called you out? Well, I didn't call you out per se, but you made a statement, and I like to talk about different contexts. If you're saying that you should make a statement and I should only agree with it, I mean, we can possibly think about that, right? But that wasn't my mindset. But also, I was saying that we have to be careful with saying that there are certain things that don't matter if they were created by the Most High, right? I feel like we should finish the sentence, right? But you're more than welcome to speak whatever in question or whatever, for certain, right? I was just telling you when you made the statement towards my wife, which I think I have the right to, if you don't mind, that's my wife. I was just making a point to say, that I think that she's right about that. And I would agree with her on that, right? That being said, though, in all these things, right, doesn't matter, well, let's even get off the matter, right? Because ultimately what I'm trying to say is we can't curve this grade. If Yah says it's this, then it's got to be what he says. That's ultimately our response, I think, ultimately, and even yours, ultimately, if we get down to it, I think that's what we're all trying to say, right? Is that what Yah says is what should be the standard. For example, let's get away from just something that you think that I'm only picking on you on. So let's go on to something else that's similar, right? What if I were to say, because we've heard people say this before, everybody is Yah's child, right? Maybe this is more comfortable, at least you feel like it's not coming at you. When people say everybody is Yah's child, everybody is Elohim's child, everybody is God's child, that's curving it, because nowhere in your Bible does it say that. So once again, somebody's getting a failing grade on something. They're not telling the truth. But we say, well, yeah, at least you mentioned, because really what happens with us, we're so excited. At least they mentioned God. At least they mentioned Elohim. At least they're saying that people should be everybody should at least try to be up under him. But nowhere in your word does it say that Yah says that everybody is his child. Matter of fact, Hashbai told certain people that they were of their father, the devil. So now I got to ask myself the question: if asked on the test, if they say, "Hey, when it comes to being a spiritual child, you can either A, be Yah's child, B, be the devil's child, or C, you could possibly be one or the other," then my answer would have to be C. But if everybody answers, or right, or if I say, I'm sorry, or if D, or let me do it like this: what if A is you can be Yah's child, B, you can be the devil's child, C is everybody is Yah's child, or D, you know, be careful because you can be either one depending on what your source is, right? Then I have to say D. That's the answer. But if everybody answers C, everybody is Yah's child, just because everybody says it. That's ultimately what I'm saying, is we shouldn't curve the grade, right? Just because everybody else is getting A's with 50s, you need to get a real A, an A plus with 100. And then you need to make sure that you've got obedience in for that extra credit, right? Put some faith in there as well. So it's not necessarily coming at anybody. What I'm trying to do tonight is make sure that we walk away with a proper mindset, because the smaller stuff, like, and don't feel this, and hopefully you don't feel a certain way about this, right? And hopefully you return, because it wasn't too long ago. Everybody was mad at me one night. I think this was last year, was it? Where everybody was mad at me because I was telling them that we shouldn't worry about being romantic, and everybody just about flipped out on your boy. Y'all remember that? I remember that, right? It was an interesting night. Because there was a sister, and I'll give you the context, right? Full context. There was a sister that put out a TikTok video, and I was saying how she was talking about, I want romance, and I want this, and I want my man to do blah, blah. And I was saying, be careful about the terms, because romantic or romance, right? Things that are Roman does not necessarily mean it's a barometer of whether it's something that's going to help you or not. But everybody got on me. Oh, Here you are. No, I need romance. And she needs romance. And you don't know what she's gone through. No, I'm just telling you as far as proper word usage, right? So that we don't get stuck in some stuff and start now, every time somebody says romance, we start caping up for it. Look, take the meat and spit out the bones. If she says that, and I'll be the first person to tell you, she felt like she was hurt. She felt like she was by herself and she was tired of dealing with people who wouldn't look for her needs. She wanted somebody who was willing to travel with her, that was willing to put in with her. She wanted somebody that if she said she wanted to go ahead and travel, that person would come back to her with a plan. And even if it wasn't a plan that was all the way together yet, she could at least be excited that somebody would plan something out for her. I get all those things. She wants somebody to have her back, most definitely. But should she want something that's romantic? Well, depends on what we're talking about, right? Because there's a reason why in Rome that you think that this right here is romantic. In Rome, they didn't have, if some people didn't have money, so they couldn't see what they were eating when it got dark. So if somebody could afford a candle, just one, man, that was great. So you call that romantic, but that's something that is not necessarily something that makes things better, is it? The only reason you hang on to it is because somebody told you that things that are romantic are great. It's like when somebody says something scientific. My wife well, I'm gonna say what I believe, even if she won't accept this. My wife, to me, is the greatest herbalist out there because she teaches me stuff that I can't get from other people. It takes me a while to get stuff as far as plant life, but I found, that it was easy for me to we went to get some herbs and stuff today, and or she did. I was just there checking on her, really, in all honesty, make sure she was all right. But I was able to identify stuff, and I found myself identifying things a lot easier, and don't even think twice about it. Right? Just like, oh yeah, that's a this, and then like 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh, I identified that. Wow, I'm excited, right? But in all that being said, right? Like my wife would be the first person to tell you. She'll tell you, oh yeah, the Latin word for this is da da da, and the Latin word for this, and the Latin term for this. But the reality is, the only reason we learn the Latin terms is why? Because certain people believe that Latin means that you're educated, and you don't want to come off as educated. You want to be educated, right? Ultimately, I'm trying to be nice the way I say it because I could outright talk about the diasporas in which we're talking about it, but I think you get the message, right? You don't want to come off as educated. You want to come off as educated. That certain groups will say that you know what you're talking about because you can give them the Latin word. Do not speak don't speak street. Speak with a vernacular, with ferocity and a ferocity that allows people to see the intersectionality of all the words that you speak coming through proper etymological values and principles that allow people to comprehend that not only are you sounding your statutes, but your laws concerning words that you can even speak universally, rather than saying speak well. You know what I'm saying? Right? Like, but somebody says, man, you speak so well. And you go, I fit in. Yes. They think I can speak well. I mean, I could speak well before I knew you. You like, even when I couldn't speak, like I told you, there was a while in my life I played a bunch of instruments and I didn't speak that well to people. There's certain things I still have today that I do, and people are just like, oh, well, you're rude or you're this and that. No, I actually have some stuff in me that's still like a shy little boy for years and years and years. Right. So I feel more comfortable being the person to play the drums than I do to be the person singing the song. Even if I can lead one in my mind, I can't lead it because in my mind, you need to be the background and be comfortable because the drums speak, right? The keyboard speaks, the upright bass, it speaks, the organ speaks, the guitar speaks. So I love to speak. I just speak a different language, right? However, before I got this voice behind me, I could speak in front of crowds. Right. But then I stopped doing it for a little bit. And at the same time, I was going through some stuff. And I thought that nobody wanted to listen to me. And when I would try to speak on stuff, people would be interested for a second, but then they'd be like, okay, whatever, just leave it alone. But I love to speak. I love to speak even when I couldn't. And I had a word in me even when nobody would listen. Right. Now that I have a voice behind me, people say, well, you speak well. I was always speaking well. And you got to be careful. See, watch this. To our sons out there, to the little boys that might be watching, we get people of all ages that watch this stuff, or sometimes you guys take this information, give it to your children. To our sons out there, I want you to realize one of the most powerful things, and little girls should get this too as well, but I can speak from the reference point of a son to his mother. There's nothing more powerful, right? Sons, don't take it, we take it for granted, we roll our eyes. There is nothing more powerful than when mama says, "What do you have to say?" I promise you, there isn't. You know how many brothers grow up and I have to hear them say that they miss when what they had to say was powerful, and we don't even realize what they're saying. They keep saying, I don't feel this, I don't feel her. You know what it is? It's like when I was a boy, mama couldn't wait. And I listened to myself. You go back, you look at yourself, you remember certain things. You're like, man, why didn't mama tell me shut up? Right? Like I was just talking, I wasn't saying anything. I thought I was dancing like Michael Jackson, probably looked like a fool. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was, strong, probably, and I look back, I was this little skinny string bean whole time. In my life, I probably thought I was the greatest this, the greatest that, and who knows? Like I know now that I think about it, when I first brought my instruments home and started learning brass instruments, especially, I sounded terrible. I had no wind support. I didn't have an armature correct. I couldn't keep a note that long. I couldn't support it with my diaphragm correctly. Like I didn't have proper positioning of it. They made me change instruments a bunch of times when I first started because I was taller. So that meant they were just going to give me the biggest instruments that were out there rather than the ones I actually wanted to learn. Right. But in all those things, right, and all that stuff that had to sound terrible, and all that stuff that my mom had to be thinking, like, will this boy shut up? I'd be in there sounding terrible for hours. But then it allowed me to travel the world with my gift. Right? Sons don't ever curve what mom's doing. Right? I used to be that brother, just like a lot of brothers were. Yeah, mom says I'm handsome. Yeah, mom says this. Now you know how much I wish my mother was alive that she just say one time, "You handsome." Hear me, sons. Right? Like we mess up. We mess this up. I'm here to tell you. Right? Like my wife and my father surprised me, letting me hear my mother's voice for a long time. And I thought I was going to shed tears as soon as I heard. I didn't shed tears initially, but later on, I was feeling some kind. I was in my little whatever, right? Not bad, but I was feeling some kind of way, because I hadn't heard it, and something about mom's voice, right? It does something for you. And same thing, but like with little girls with mom's voice too, but also with dad's voice, and we curve that. We curve that. Sisters, the way you need affection, right? Sometimes, like I hear sisters say that. And look, I'm not saying there aren't mama's boys out there, but hear what I'm saying, right? And to a certain sense, every boy is a mama's boy. Right? It's very rare that you have boys that aren't mama's boys, and it's usually because mama was on some stuff. And even if mama is on some stuff, every boy still craves the attention of mama. I'm just here to tell you, right? But don't curve it. There's a lot of brothers out there who don't get that affection, not just as adults, right? They haven't gotten it right, or just with you. They haven't gotten it in a while. They don't get it when they go to their jobs, right? They don't get it when they go to these places, right? And this is why, brothers, you need to be girded up. You need to be prayed up, because there's going to be some other women out there who try to test you. They try to do that 80-20. Hopefully you got more like a 95-5, right? But they're going to try to hit you with that 20 and see if they can hit you with a word or tell you they'll blah, blah, or I'll work for you, or I'll do this, or I see your vision. Like, be careful with that stuff, right? You're pining for something, but this is why love language is important, things like that. Like we'll say, I'm an excellent wife. I'm an excellent husband. Then I say, okay, what's your husband or your wife's love language? And what is their dialect? And you just start, well, I don't even know what you're talking about. Well, what is their love language? What's their dialect? Like just because somebody has acts of service, they don't look at actions the same way that everybody has acts of service. That's like saying everybody speaks Spanish. They don't. Yeah, there's a Spain type Spanish, right? There's the Spain Spanish, right? That everybody can kind of get down with. But tell me if they're gonna sound the same in Puerto Rico as they do when you go to Spain, right? Yeah, there's Portuguese for real, but not all Portuguese from Brazil sounds like Portuguese from Portugal. Like that's real. You know what I'm saying? Like, culture is relevant in everything. And so you'll have a lot of people who, once again, you're having bad conversation. You're trying to talk about greatness, but you are talking about greatness on a curve. And anything on a curve means that I have to deny a whole bunch of stuff, right? This is what happens, right? If I'm in my class and I get a 65 and I come home and I say, Mama, I got a 65 on the test. You know what her first response is without any context? That's what my mother's response would be. Why are you excited about that? I mean, congratulations. My mother, knowing my mother, she would say, congratulations that you passed. But she would say, why are you excited about a 65? And then I have to say, no, Mom, they graded the test on the curve. And then my mother would probably say, well, okay, I guess you got an A this time, but you know that means that you don't know 35% of what's on the test. Right? My father probably wouldn't try to hear it at all. Right? But I'm just saying, like, if I came home talking about I got a 65, but a lot of people, you do that. I got a 65 in my culture. And then but it's like, but you still missing 35%. It's like when we talk about degrees. I got 5 degrees, but there's 360 of them in a circle. Right? There's 15 of them in the song of degrees. I mean, we can't even get you right. There's not even a right angle unless you're talking about 90. So it's nice that you got your degree, but it doesn't mean you know everything. Now, am I saying you shouldn't focus on what you got your degree in, and you shouldn't focus on your gifting? You shouldn't grow in your gift and your call? Of course you should. But to keep curving this thing, and this is what they do with you in school. They don't ever develop the whole you. They develop a portion of you. The reason why a lot of people don't have peace within you is because a lot of times you only know a piece of what's in you. Ooh, Holy Spirit, that's a bar right there. Let me rewind that real quick, right? A lot of people, they have no peace a lot of people have no peace within them because they've only been introduced to a piece of what's in them. So you're sitting there talking about all the stuff. You have learned yourself on the curve. You know more about some of our children know more about their multiplication tables than know about peace. There's a little boy out there right now that knows more about Mortal Kombat than he knows about Psalm 23. That's dangerous. That's dangerous right there. Salah. We talking about people who are mad at husbands and wives for not being husbands and wives, and you can't even define what it is. If I ask everybody in the world what is love, if I were to line up 65 people in the world right now and tell me what is your definition of love, I would get 65 definitions. How well do you think that works? What is that thing called? Is it called when everybody speed dating? I've never done it. I've seen it. It seems very odd and weird to me. I don't know how you end up going out with somebody on speed dating, but whatever. Right? It's all these people that come, and y'all correct me because I really don't know that much of it. I know it more from movies and from watching other people discuss them, but I don't really know anything about it, right? So I'm just gonna be honest. Y'all might have to correct me on some stuff. From what I've gathered, it seems to be that everybody comes to the same location. Everybody's supposedly single. Doesn't always work out that way, but everybody's supposedly single, and everybody's supposed to just basically have a certain amount of time. I don't know if it's a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. Y'all are supposed to ask each other questions and see if you guys connect on stuff. And then somebody rings a bell or blows a whistle or gives some indication or says time, and then everybody moves to the next one. Am I somewhat correct in that? Y'all gonna have to help me in that because I don't really know, right? But I'm from what I've seen, that seems to be kind of the gist of it, right? That being said, let's say we had, I don't know, we'd have to have it by twos, right? So let's say we had 100 people that participated in that. 50 males, 50 females, who knows now, they'd say 25 males, 25 females, and then I guess the other 50 would be whatever they are or identify with. I don't even know, right? But whatever, right? Back in the day, it probably would be 50 males, 50 females, right? So you put that together, and if I were to ask that room before everybody went in, what is your definition of love? Let's say that everybody didn't have their own definition. I'm pretty sure that I can tell you that I probably get about 70 to 75 definitions of love. Oh, you're coming back from what we talked about earlier today. So let's talk about how the earth isn't flat and how we can circumnavigate. Um, how about if you really want to talk to me about that, you can talk to me about that when we're talking about it. I don't remember your name from earlier today, right? You probably got muted just like you did today. We're talking about a curve. But if anything, would have been smart. You know what would have been really smart is that you should have said you believe in the curve, but you don't believe the earth is round. See, I'd be better at trolling than y'all. I need to be a troll for real. I need to be a professional troll. I'd be great at it. Right? Some of y'all say I'm that now. Who knows? But I see that would have been bars. I would have given you that. Like I would have actually stopped and applauded you on that. That would that would have been like, or if anything, be like, hey, you curving that information on the earth being around. I would have stopped and been like, that's what's up. I would have actually stopped for that, but it is what it is, right? Even in the ad hominem, be better, right? Even in the ad hominem, be better, do better, right? Um, anyways, right? What are we talking about? Oh yeah, so you have to get to a place to where once again you got to stop curving. You got to stop curving greatness. Greatness is what it is. Do you hear what I'm saying? Greatness is what it is. Greatness is what it is. Yah is who he is. That's why he said, I am that I am. That's not his name, but he did declare, I am that I am. This is why Yah says, I swear by myself. I'm not swearing off of what you say that it needs to be. I'm the one that made it. Why we gotta have I told you the earth has foundations. I ain't said nothing about a core. Argue with me all you want. You know what I'm saying? I told you that before there was a such thing as time, I was already, watch this, before there was a such thing as time, the fourth day, right? I already told you that there was a first, a second, and the third day. That means that a day is not a 24-hour period, but you'll argue with people about the creation portion or the creationist viewpoint. You don't even have, and watch this, a lot of so-called creationists are not even faithful to the viewpoint. Before we even get to day 4, which we had to wait to the end of it before the sun, the moon, and the stars are there, we're dealing with a yom, a day, a period of time. You automatically, because of what you've tried to curve things to, your mindset of a day is only 24 hours. But I would tell you that within a day, you can daydream. That's a period of time in which you dream. Did you know that? You see, but if you curve it because you have to win an argument or because that's what somebody told you it has to be, that's bars. I am that I am, right? See, we're so busy trying to curve stuff. Once again, curve what you're saying. Let's stop talking about something that's actually helping people, and that we're talking about a whole different thing in the evening that we did in the rising. I want you to stop everything you're doing to ensure that you talk about curving things. I don't know why I'm talking like that right now, but it is what it is. I'm just saying, like you want to curve, but that's not what we're talking about. That's not what the grade is on. But you'd rather curve over the 2%. Right? I'm just saying, we have this weird thing, right? Like some people's whole mindset is, what is your IQ? But what is IQ based on? All right, we're gonna get ready to take our leave in a second because, all right, wait, it's time. All right, I hear you, Holy Spirit. Right? Let's end on this. What is your IQ based on? Your IQ is not based off of what your culture is. For example, somebody will say, so and so can't read because they can't read the letters in that book and form words. But what if somebody can read dirt and can tell you exactly what's going to happen and when it's going to grow and what season something's in? Depending on what you need, I might not care if the person can read a book at that moment in time. I want to be able to read somewhat so they can study. However, like the person that can't read but can grow food, he can read, she can read. What about the person who can read body language? Is that more important sometimes than reading a book? What about the person that knows your love language and can read how you feel before you even get there? That's what our definition, by the way, in our culture, to care for somebody actually is us saying that before before the person even knows that they have want or need of it, you're already aware of it and you're formulating the plan. If you have not already decided, you will provide it. Watch this, and I'm guilty of this. May I say this again out loud? I am guilty of this. So this is not to come down on anybody. You ready for this? How many times do we tell people that we love? We'll say stuff like, especially when we get mad and we're frustrated, right? We feel like everybody's putting us in a box and stuff, and we don't feel like people appreciate us. And we'll say stuff like, I don't even know what I like to do anymore. But people still care enough for you that they give you stuff that you don't even know if you need it or not. Right? I praise y'all. My wife is in the kitchen right now. You can hear her throwing down. And before I knew that I needed what she was making, she's made it. See, that's IQ. See, somebody's talking about, do I comprehend, Mendel's theory of? Do I comprehend Einstein's theory of? Do I recognize Sir Isaac Newton's theory of? Do I comprehend Higgs theory or the Higgs particle? But you don't have the intelligence. Intelligence is just information. You don't have the information to make sure that you can take care of somebody before they might have need of it. See, that's IQ. Why is it that you only think your IQ is attached to? I keep trying to say ASVAB because that's the military test. What is the SAT? It's SAT, and what's the other one? I'm sorry, I didn't care about the other one. SAT and something else, right? And you put all these hopes and dreams. You start studying nowadays. People in 6th grade are starting to study for the SAT because you think your whole life and all your experiences and your college and all this stuff or whatever. And at the end of the day, look, like I said earlier, you would be surprised how many people put so much towards being. And once again, I'm not condemning anybody for this. I just want you to catch how they get us to think. The ACT. Thank you. That's the other one. Yeah. So what I want you to think about this. When's the last time that you had a conversation with somebody, or you were looking at a Bill Gates, or you were looking at a Steve Jobs, or you were looking at a Warren Buffett, or you were looking at Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, no matter how you feel about these people, Joel Osteen, Joyce Meyer, the list could go on and on and on, right? A PFO Lumumba, whomever, a Shaka Zulu. I'm sorry, what? Oh, Elon Musk. Thank you, baby. Elon Musk. Heck, even if you don't like their mind, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, President Obama, President Bush, President Clinton, President Bush, President Reagan, President Carter, etc. When's the last time you looked at them and saw a valedictorian? Just think about it now. When's the last time that you looked at any of them and looked at somebody who was the head of their class? Matter of fact, some of them, I can say this, when's the last time you looked at them and saw somebody that completed college? See, they got you to curve so much of yourself that you look for things that the people who actually are making you bow down to what they do, they don't even look for that within themselves. Did Steve Jobs finish college? Uh-oh. Did Bill Gates finish college? Uh-oh. Did Musk finish college? I'm not saying nobody finishes college, but I'm just saying, man, they definitely went to valedictorian. But you can't use Twitter without Elon Musk, can you? He shapes your reality. Some of you can't wait to get your hands on the Tesla. And look, they seem like very fine cars. I don't want the ones that self-drive, but they seem like very nicely made cars, at least from what I've seen. I don't like the design on a lot of them, but I mean, they seem genuinely like very well done. And I'm actually at some point, even though I always want to have something that runs on gasoline, at some point I might want an electric car. I've thought about it. But I'm trying to get you to see a lot of stuff that you're looking for. Watch this. Whitney Houston, how well did she read music? I'm not saying you shouldn't learn. I know how to read music, but I was one of the greatest sight readers in the world. And I mean that literally because I was somebody who got hired to play with orchestras and do that. Not everybody can do that. So I was literally at one point in my life, I had done enough in the game. I'm not saying I was one of the greatest musicians ever, but I can read music better than a lot of other people do because of what I had to do for a living. That being said, though, who do you know better for their musical prowess, myself or Whitney? Because there's certain things that she could read in the spirit, like literally, her soul could hit things. Forget just her voice, vocal cords. Her soul could hit. There's certain things that she learned as a child to read in the spirit that you and I can only think about or even dream about doing. She's singing things on a level that if we tried to break it down, what she's doing with her body, just with her her voice box alone, we probably wouldn't be able to explain it to people. You hear what I'm saying? But in your mind, hey, what college did you go to? Who cares? Well, you know what? I won't say who cares. That's too far. Forgive me, right? That's too far, right? However, don't put so much stock in it, especially if it's something that's not really teaching you yourself, right? One of the best Kanye West albums, so everybody says, is what? College Dropout. How many degrees did Kanye need to become one of the richest people on earth? No matter what you think about his mental health, that should actually be something that we look at and say, wow, even with mental health issues, he did that. He developed his craft and his gift that much that even through all that stuff, somebody shut his jaw. And in a place to where you gangster, you ain't supposed to admit that. He made a whole song called Through the Wire. People try to make fun of Floyd Mayweather, right? 50 Cent tried to make fun of him. See, we look at Floyd try to make fun of him and say, yeah, man, you know what? You can't read, man. You do, Dr. Seuss or whatever. You make it do Dr. Seuss. You can read The Cat in the Hat, and I'll give you this much money or whatever. It's like 50. Floyd is worth more than you. What are you talking about? You all right? Floyd is worth more than you. Like Floyd Mayweather is a billionaire. 50, you make a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but you were not Floyd. People were making fun of Floyd Mayweather. See, Floyd has more IQ. He has more intelligence. People say, look at all these watches. He's just wasting his money on watches. Do you know that watches, unlike many other things that you buy, a watch is one of the few things that when you wear it, it actually appreciates in value. Did you know that? Like if you get a car, the second you take it off the lot, what does it do? Depreciates. Get yourself a gold chain, right? As soon as you get it and put it on your neck, first thing it does is what? Depreciate. But you get a watch, you get a Rolex and put it on your wrist. What it does? It appreciates. So every time he wears something, and then of course, because he wears it as well, every time he wears it, it goes up in value. But you had all these people trying to make fun of him, say, see, he's stupid and that's black man. Wait, now look, does Floyd do some crazy stuff with his money? Yes, right? Even though if you're making billions, I don't know how crazy you can really get. I guess you could lose billions. It's pretty tough, but I guess you could, right? But, people aren't getting it. People saying, oh, see, Floyd is on some stupid stuff. He's always flying everywhere in a private jet. If you're a billionaire, you can afford a private jet. What you talking about? Like, you can buy a plane like you can buy a car, right? He's not paying rent on a plane. You know what I'm saying? Like if he owns a plane or two, then that's his. And he puts gas in it just like you put gas in your car. And to him, I don't know how much it costs to fill up a plane. I'm not on that level yet. One day, maybe I'll be there, right? But I'm not on that level yet, right? However, I can only imagine there's got to be what, a few thousand, tens of thousands, maybe. Right? But if he can afford to do it, to flip a plane, that's like you trying to hope that you can put 50, 60 in the tank. That's intelligence. He was intelligent enough. Watch this. This is how intelligent Floyd Mayweather is. Look, and I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he was right to put his hands on his girlfriend or woman or maybe wife at the time. Not even sure what their position was. I'm not saying it's great that he cusses in front of his children and all that. I'm not saying he's the greatest example. Hear what I'm saying though. His father was a pro boxer and was a champion too. His father ended up busted, disgusted, broke, in prison. Floyd Mayweather took the same thing that his father did in the same neighborhood that his father grew up in, and Floyd Mayweather became a billionaire. You can talk all the trash you want about him, but he's intelligent. My wife was asking me about this the other day. I had to explain this to her. She was like, why is Floyd Mayweather dressed like a Mexican? And I was like, oh, like, because, if you don't follow boxing like that, you probably don't know. So I had to explain to her, that's actually an intelligent thing he did. Every year on Cinco de Mayo, Floyd Mayweather always fought a Mexican person, right? Oscar De La Hoya. Who's the guy that's the big deal now? Is it Triple G, or who's the other guy? Whatever his name is, whoever the guy is that's the big deal now, right? He always fought somebody on Cinco de Mayo, because he knew that a bunch of people, a bunch of Mexicans were going to tune in, and they were going to tune in as he always played the heel. He always played the bad guy, and he was going to make sure that everybody hated him. And then on purpose, he would make sure that he dressed up like a Mexican. Canelo, thank you. It's Canelo Alvarez, thank you. Not Triple G. He beat Triple G, right? So he would always show up every year dressed like a Mexican. He beat up Oscar De La Hoya, one of supposedly Mexico's finest, right? Beat him up on Cinco de Mayo. And every time he would do it, the crowd would always be so torn at the end, because they swore, even though Floyd was winning, in their mind, that was their guy. So he had to win. And when he would lose, they hated him even more. So guess what you do now? The next fight he has, right? 6 months later, you'll tune into that one because I want to see him get beat. And then what do you do next year? When he didn't get beat twice that year, he's going to show up again Cinco de Mayo. This year, for sure, one of our boys is going to beat him. And he beats him again. Muhammad Ali, who, by the way, he couldn't read. One of the most intelligent brothers that ever exist. Considered to be a great poet, a swarthy poet. Some people would even call him a prophet. Preacher for the NOI, learned at the feet of Malcolm X. Oh yeah, couldn't read, but would you say he wasn't intelligent? He used to do the same thing. A lot of times he talked. Why? Not just because he said, I talk because I know that people want to see me get beat. They want to see me get shut up. He would even tell people up to the fight. He'd say, I know all y'all tuning in to see me see me get beat, get beat, to see me get shut up, but they can't shut me up, and they won't even get a lick on me because I'm pretty. He'd say stuff to him. Then he'd even play the heel because, he played the whole homophobic thing. So he'd say, I'm pretty as a girl. That would really mess up a lot of people. Right? Remember, he started fighting. Black and white television was the thing. So he back in the day. We only think about him in modern time, but he's in the 60s. Right? He changed his name to Muhammad Ali. He knew. Now, he didn't do that just for views, right? But I'm just saying, he knew what was going on. Had death threats before every fight. If you're gonna go ahead and come at me that way, then I'm gonna go ahead and do what? He did that copying Jack Johnson to a certain degree, yeah. He was the last. He's probably the last person, or the first person to do it since Jack Johnson. And look up Jack Johnson. You say that some of y'all would say Jack Johnson wasn't intelligent either. Jack Johnson. Now, I'm not saying I agree with this lifestyle, right? But Jack Johnson used to even mess with people just to hope that they would come see him to get beat. He would even sleep with white women on purpose. Now, that's something that could have got you killed back then, right? But he would do it on purpose. And he was the champ for something ridiculous. I want to say he was like, what, at least the champ for, I might, you know what, let me look this up, because I want to say he was the champ for like 30 or 40 years. That's like unheard of. Like Joe Louis was the champ for 10 years. And that's a lot, right? Without getting beat. He was a champ for like 30, 40. You know what? I could be wrong. Let me look up. Maybe he was 40. He was a champ for like decades, I'm pretty sure. That's why when he lost, by the way, remember, they wouldn't even let black people fight for the heavyweight championship for a while. Oh, okay, it was only a short amount of time. No, that's not right. That's not right. They got to say in here he was 1908 to 1915. I swear he must have been champ of something else, because I know he's at least 1900. That's not right. I'm gonna have to do some research. Or maybe he wasn't the heavyweight champ or something like that. He was some other champ, because that's not right at all. Or maybe he was unbeaten longer than what I'm thinking. I don't know. I have to look that up. The Galveston Giant. Look up the Galveston Giant. That man was amazing. Right. I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe in my mind, he's so large in my mind as a young boxing fan that maybe I just made him 30, 40 years in my mind because he only lived from 1878 to 1946. So I don't think so. It's a possibility he didn't do that. Now that I think about it, I swear he had to be decades though. Maybe it's just decades that he was known. I don't know. Anyways, but Jack Johnson used to do all types of stuff like that too. But I'm just saying all that to say, look, you'd be surprised, and they keep saying all this stuff like, even when they wouldn't let you read when you were slaves, right? Even when they wouldn't let you live. I mean, sorry, read when you were a slave. Tell me how smart you had to be to make sure that, like, when your men got tied up because they wanted to teach them a lesson, and they tie him to a post, hands behind their back, and wouldn't feed them and leave them in the sun, right? How smart you have to be as a people to make sure that you breastfeed your men so that they survive. How smart you have to be to do your little girl's hair in cornrows with literal food on it, so that you can make sure that as they're going from place to place, they can have food to eat. How smart do you have to be to make sure that you know how to deal with pokeweed and do poke salad, which is poisonous, but you learned how to eat it. People always talk, it's always interesting. We only talk about pork like that's the only thing that we learn how to, or we knew how to eat. We knew a lot more things besides just pork and just chitlins. Not every slave ate chitlins. That's but in our mind, we all had to eat dung, I guess. Right. That's and look, I get a lot of sermons have been preached on that. A lot of people have spoken on that, including my, person dear to my heart, Minister Malcolm Shabazz. That's where I even started thinking about it as a child, right? And how much you need to get away from it. I say all these things though, just to say this ultimately, we got to stop curving greatness. Stop curving excellence. If it's excellent, it's excellent. And watch this. Sometimes watch this. If have you ever watched somebody and you didn't even know what sport they were playing, but you watched a bunch of people do that sport and you saw one person out of all the people playing that sport, you didn't know how to play that sport, but you knew that person was playing it and playing it well. You know why? Because it didn't even need to be explained. You could look at it and you could see for yourself, and you could tell that person, that they must be the best. I'm not talking about before it happened. I'm talking about when they started racing, or when they started lifting, or when they started jumping, or when they started playing cricket, or whatever the case might be. You could look up the whole scene. You could look at the reaction of the crowd. You could look at what they were doing compared to other people. You could look at their stance. You could look at their confidence, and something in you said, that person right there, that's the standard. All right. Stop letting people curve your greatness and your excellence. You are the standard. Right? You are the standard. I still can't really follow, if I be honest, I still can't really follow patois like that. But when I hear it and I hear people speak it, I can tell that person knows it and that person doesn't. I don't even know it that well, but I know enough about it, or at least can see certain things and even hear the way that people react to it. And I'm like, yeah, that person knows what they're talking about. Right? There's some things that you might not know, but you can feel it, you can see it. And we live in a society where if somebody from a certain diaspora doesn't write it down exactly the way they say it should be, then it's not correct. And that's not right at all. There are certain things that you and I feel that other people can't feel. Yeah, excellent. Your excellence doesn't have to be measured according to their standards. That's absolutely right, Sister Sheila. Kind of here, right? Stop letting these people determine who you are. Why do they get to determine who you are? At some point, you got to say who you are. That being said, thank you for being on with us this evening. Appreciate you. Solicit your prayers as always. Look forward to talking to you guys in the rising. We still got to make up our Patreon stuff, so we'll try to get that in at some point. Those who've been taking classes, we're going to leave up those Google Calendar invites for a few weeks. So if you want to go ahead and look at those for the recordings, you can. We thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we thank you so much for supporting her. You can also look her up at Bloom and Flourish too, if you would like. And we thank you guys so much for being on once again. So as always, we appreciate you, fam. And This has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And until we have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember as always, Yashada, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Take care.